So today we're going to be talking about Zombie World, the card. So Zombie World is the core card or strategy, or core card that our strategy revolves around when we play Zombie World decks. So the way you can typically activate Zombie World is either from hand, you just activate it, or you can have Banshee's effect, where Banshee banishes itself from either field or graveyard to activate Zombie World. Banshee also has this effect where Zombie World in the field zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, neither player can target it with card effects. Whilst Necro World Banshee is on the field, Zombie World is protected by it. So, back to the topic of Zombie World. Zombie World isn't truly a floodgate, I'd say. Like, it happens to floodgate some decks. It's interesting. So, for example, Cyber's decks can get really screwed over by Zombie World. Because, for example, they can't summon, well, they can summon Transcode Talker, but they can't activate the effect of Transcode Talker. Because Transcode Talker says that, if you summoned any monster aside from Cybers, you can't activate its effect, I believe. So when you summon monsters, they're counted as zombies, meaning you did summon a non-Cyber, so you can't activate the effect of Transcode. And also, for example, you can't summon Lingeribo as it happens. And also, AI Meet You, not sure. So if you activate this, you basically VFD yourself, because there are no Cybers monsters on the field, because Zombie World. And also in the graveyard, there are no Cybers monsters, so Splash Mage and Transcode, I believe, can bring back anything, so that's not relevant there, but I believe Splash Mage specifically only specials Cybers monsters. And Idol Reborn, you can't special summon you can't special summon any monsters from the graveyard after you activate, like, Idol Reborn. You can't, like, you just can't, because they're zombies. And also, like, for example, Wanderers. Because we also happen to have this fun line, neither player contributes summon monsters except for zombie monsters. This actually cucks Wanderers, because this is a winged beast as you would have it. And also, they all have this effect. If a winged beast monster is normal summoned to your field while this card is banished. So, zombie. You can't add back your Wanderers monsters, because they're zombies and not winged beasts anymore. So, that effect can't trigger, so you can't chain block anymore either. And that's a really bad matchup for Wanderers as well. And so basically, there are specific decks that get messed up by just having Zombie World on field, but it's not like every single deck gets completely bent over by this. Like, for example, Branded does not care, like, at all. Like, Light Monster. And then for Mirror Jade, it's like an extra deck monster and Fallen of Albaz. They don't really care if they're zombies, dragons, or motherfuckers, or whatever. Excuse me for my crass language there. But, anyways, most of our plays revolve around Zombie World. So, for example, Doom King Ballad Rock is pretty dependent on our Zombie World. So, during the standby phase, if a face-up card is in the field zone, anyone, doesn't matter, you can special summon Doom King Ballad Rock. So after this effect happens, even if your opponent MSTs whatever field spell you happen to have, Doom King will still special. Or if your opponent controls a field spell, you'll still special. There needs to be a face-up field spell. Or a card in the field zone, whatever. So, it always specials in defense position, and then once per chain, whenever a zombie monster, except for Doom King Ballad Rock, activates its effect, you can apply one of these effects, you would negate that effect, or banish a monster from the field or graveyard. So, with that effect, in combination of Zombie Worlds, every single monster on the field is a zombie, every single monster in the graveyard is also a zombie, and that means you can negate those effects and you can only activate once these effects like once per turn. But, well, kind of. You can, actually the correct wording is you can apply one of these effects, but you cannot apply the same effect of Doom King Balrog again this turn. So, for example, specifically, if we have a Borreload Dragon over here, let's say we go, like, our opponent goes Chain 1 Tracer, and then we go Chain 2 Doom King, they go Chain 3 Borreload Savage Dragon. We didn't actually apply any of these effects because we choose in Chain Resolution which effect to apply. So technically we did not apply the negate that effect or banish one monster from the field or graveyard effect. So if our opponent activates another monster effect, or we do, then we can negate that effect or banish a monster from the field or the graveyard. So that's interesting as well, and there's some interesting things about the mirror match here. Like, once per chain when a zombie monster, except for Doom King Balrog, activates its effect. So, you can chain block, like, Doom King with Doom King. Even if, like, for example, your Doom King is negated, like, you got impermed or something silly, and your opponent summons a Doom King, like, you can, like, let's say they activate, like, a Banshee effect or something to try to activate their Doom King, you can chain your negated Doom King, and then they just can't activate, the copy of Doom King, which is really goofy. So this effect here, kind of goofy, but I mean, it's not inherently unfair or anything, I'd say. Continuing on, Zombie World allows for a bunch of intricate plays. So, for example, with Red Eye's Zombie Dragon Lord, you can special summon any zombie monster in your graveyard aside from itself, Red Eye Zombie Dragon Lord. And yeah, that's about the effect there. But with Zombie World up, any monster is actually a zombie. So Baron de Fleur, if it's in the graveyard for some reason, you can special it back. Same with Mezuki, you can special back any monster in the graveyard as long as it permits it. So you can summon back like a Drytron card, I guess. You learned the hard way, guys. Bolin as well. Bolin's effect, you can target one zombie monster in either graveyard, special summon that monster, but banish it when it leaves the field. So, Bolin can allow you to, for example, special summon Baron de Fleur. We'll just use Baron de Fleur as an example every time, I guess. So you special back your opponent's Baron de Fleur, and the good thing about this is, like, for example, if you target an Eldlik, even if they get rid of your control of the Eldlik by, like, destroying it by battle, sending it to graveyard, whatever, once it leaves the field, it's gone, it's banished, which is pretty sick. So, for example, you can special summon, for example, this obnoxious Sky Striker Ace Ray. And then, yeah, Ray is just outed and it's on your field, and your opponent has to deal with their own Ray a little bit as well. Which is pretty cool. Like, you can just kind of yoink a boss monster once you've outed it and then take it with Bolin. And then, your opponent has to out it and they have no chance of recovering it anymore. Well, unless they have a way to special it from, like, banished, which, doubtful. Gozuki's effect as well, you can banish a zombie monster from your graveyard and then special a zombie from hand. With Zombie World active, any monster in the graveyard is, in fact, a zombie. So we'll just use loosely, for example, let's say we have Thunder Dragon Dark. So, you can banish this, activate it, and you'll banish it with, like, I don't know, a Gozuki effect or something. And also, Zombie Necronize, for example, if a level 5 or higher zombie monster is on the field, you can target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until end phase. So, funnily enough, if your opponent is playing Eldlik and they just have a Golden Lord on the field, you can just take that Golden Lord with Necronize. And also, with Zombie World, if they have just a high level monster, you can just yoink it. Once again with Necronize. Necronize as well resets itself by shuffling back a banished zombie monster into the deck. And that's also where, in a previous video, I mentioned Return of the Zombies as well is good, because this becomes like a untargeted banish. Banish one zombie monster on the field, yep. And then you can special summon one zombie monster from the graveyard of the player who controlled it to their field in defense position. So if you, like, for example, banish will go, say for example, Mirror Jade. Oh, well, hold up. Mirror Jade. We can banish Mirror Jade. And then we'll special summon back, like, let's say Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Or Maxi. This is one of the slickest usages you can have with this is with Rivalry, where you have Rivalry and Return of the Zombies in Zombie World, where you can force your opponent into, like, having just a solo Ash Blossom on the field. And then they can't even crash it. It's a 0 attack monster, but I mean this summons in defense position anyway, so they can't crash it this turn anyways. But you, who is playing a zombie deck, I guess, like most of the extra deck, you can, well, there's a lot of decent extra deck options for you to utilize that are zombies, so yeah. That rivalry luck is kind of disgusting, but it's not a mandatory kind of thing you have to do, but the option's there, I guess. Chang-Chi as well has the effect to banish a zombie monster in your graveyard to special itself when it's banished. And so there's various synergy and engines you can run alongside, like, the base Zombie World engine. So this list right now uses mostly a Zombie World engine, and it's mostly just Zombie World stuff. Except for Super Poly, which I guess is just like, you know, Dragon Necro, Nether Soul Dragon, like a Zombie World up, boom, Super Poly, Dragon Necro. Well, actually, yeah, that's about it. For Zombie World, it's just a deck plays around having Zombie World on field, and that's what the interactions are based off of, and if you remove Zombie World from the field, we struggle a bit. Because this is a very monster-heavy strategy. If you've noticed, there's actually not very much, if not at all any, aside from Baron de Flora itself. And I guess if you include Chengying, I guess, sure. Then you can't interact with, like, back row at all. You simply can't. Like, Doom King only affects monsters, negating monsters, banishing monsters, being able to chain to monsters, pull in specials, monsters. Well, that's not relevant for your opponent, but yeah. Basically, if your opponent's not playing monster heavy and they just, well, there's a lot of board breakers that work and can break your board, like even a simple MST on your zombie world is pretty devastating at times. So that can be rough, but that is how this deck kind of functions, so fair enough. But yeah, that basically sums up how what Zombie World does, and yeah. So a lot of our zombies that we play have effects that say something about zombie monsters, like in the graveyard or something on either side of the field. Doesn't really matter, doesn't specify. And Zombie World makes every monster on the field and the graveyard a zombie, which also gets screwed by Necro Valley, because Necro Valley says something pretty interesting. Negate any card effect that would move a card in the graveyard to a different place. Negate any card effect that changes types or attributes in the graveyard. So that completely negates Zombie World. Awkward. So there are some bad matchups for Zombie World as well, and Zombie World for, well, I guess I'd say obvious reasons, struggles more going second and is preferably a going first deck, and your options for going second aren't super great. I mean, you would just Dark Ruler No More, and Dark Ruler No More in general is just good, and you would run it with this as well. But, aside from that, yep. It's a going first strategy, and you set up Zombie World, and you hopefully have a good time. Yep. So, that's about it for this. So I'll be seeing you guys. Bye.